Have you ever stared at your phone, wondering why that message you sent to your daughter or son 2 days ago still hasn't been answered? Maybe you wrote something sweet, maybe you asked how they were, or maybe you just sent a simple thinking of you. And still, silence. No reply. Not even a thumbs up. Now let me ask you this. How does that make you feel? A little invisible? A bit dismissed? Maybe even hurt? If so, you're definitely not alone. Because for many people over 60, this strange kind of silence from our adult children has become far too common. And it's not because they don't love us. No, it's more complicated than that. And also more fixable than you might think. You see, times have changed. The way younger generations communicate is different, faster, more digital, and yes, sometimes more distracted. But here's the encouraging truth. With just a few small changes in how we text, we can create messages they actually can't ignore. Not because we're trying to trick them or beg for attention, but because we're finally speaking their language, while still staying true to our own voice. In this video, we're going to explore 10 kinds of texts that cut through the noise, open doors again, and rekindle that connection that may have gone quiet. We'll go deep, but not complicated. I'll walk you through each kind of message with examples, why it works, and how it helps them see you. Not just as mom or dad, but as someone worth replying to. Let's start with the first one. And trust me, it's a game changer. Have you ever tried sending a text that doesn't just say period? How are you? But actually makes your child curious enough to stop scrolling and write back? That's what we call a curiosity hook. It's one of the most powerful tools you have, because even grown children, no matter how busy or distracted, can't resist a little mystery. Instead of a basic message like "I was just thinking about you. Try this. I just realized something about you today. It made me smile." Then, stop. That's it. Don't explain right away. Let the silence do the work. Why does this work? Because people, especially your kids, are wired to want answers when something feels unfinished. You're leaving the door open just wide enough for them to peek in, and that little peek is often all it takes to draw them back into the conversation. It also shows them something else, that you notice things about them even from afar. That you're thinking, feeling, observing, not just sitting around waiting for a reply, but living with intention. And trust me, when your message includes a gentle mystery, they'll be far more likely to tap that keyboard and say, "What do you mean?" Now, once you've piqued their interest, what comes next? You keep the conversation alive by adding depth, not pressure. And that brings us to the next kind of message, the reflective question. Think of this as the kind of question that makes your child stop for a second, look away from the chaos of their day, and just think. Here's an example. If you could go back and relive one day from your 20s, which one would you pick? And why? Or, what's one thing you hope your future self remembers to never forget? These aren't random questions. They're thoughtful. They invite self-reflection. And more importantly, they signal that you're interested in who they are now, not just in giving advice or checking in. Too often, communication with our kids becomes about logistics or guilt or silence. But when we ask questions that show we're still deeply interested in who they're becoming, they feel seen. And when they feel seen, they respond. I know what you might be thinking. What if they think I'm trying too hard? Let me tell you something. You're not trying too hard. You're caring intentionally. And that's something the world needs more of, not less. Still, even the best questions can fall flat if they come from a place of fear or neediness. That's where the third type of message makes all the difference. This one is about self-assurance. It's the kind of text that reminds your children, without saying it directly, that you know your own value. That you're not chasing their attention, You're offering them a moment of presence. A simple way to do that might be, "You know, not everyone gets the privilege of having deep, meaningful conversations. I'm glad we've had a few." You're not begging for more. You're acknowledging what's already been shared. And that quiet confidence speaks volumes. This kind of message works because it doesn't place pressure on them to respond. It allows them to feel the warmth of being appreciated without feeling guilted. And when they do respond, it's more likely to come from a genuine desire, not obligation. You see, a lot of what we've learned over the years about parenting doesn't always translate well into this texting age. We were taught to be providers, protectors, problem solvers. But in this chapter of life, the most powerful thing we can be is present, calm, strong, grounded in our own worth. And believe it or not, when your kids feel that energy from you, even through a small, well-crafted text, it shifts how they see you. They stop seeing you as someone who needs them to reply and start seeing you as someone they want to connect with. It's a beautiful turning point. Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked, but absolutely essential: empathy. Not the kind that involves fixing everything or giving lectures. I'm talking about soft, simple empathy. The kind that lets your kids know you understand that life is heavy, and you're here if they need a moment to breathe. A message like, "I know life gets crazy sometimes. Just wanted to remind you you're doing better than you think," can feel like a warm cup of tea in the middle of their chaos. You're not demanding a reply. You're offering comfort. And comfort, real, unspoken, unconditional comfort, is unforgettable. So many people today are surrounded by noise but starved for understanding. And when you offer them even a small moment of being seen, you give them something rare, something they may not get from their job, their friends, or even their partner. That's how you stay close, without being overbearing. There's a quiet strength in being someone your children know they can turn to without judgment, without expectation, and without drama. And that strength shows up in the kinds of messages you send, not just the words, but the energy behind them. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that energy is everything in relationships, especially with adult children. They feel it. They respond to it, even if they don't say it out loud. So whether you're sending a gentle nudge, a thoughtful question, or a quiet encouragement, remember this: every message is a mirror. It reflects who you are and how you show up. And when you start showing up with warmth, curiosity, confidence, and empathy, your kids will notice. Maybe not immediately, but over time, those messages become threads, and threads build bridges. And those bridges, they bring people home. Now that you've begun to understand the kind of energy that makes a text message unforgettable, let's keep moving forward. Because this journey of rebuilding connection, of being heard, of being seen again, doesn't stop with curiosity and empathy. It deepens with presence. It deepens with intention. And most of all, it deepens with something that's become far too rare these days: anticipation. One of the most overlooked ways to get a reply from your kids isn't by asking a question. It's by giving them something to look forward to. A sense of period. Wait, what are they up to? And one way to do that is with a text that builds just the right amount of suspense. Something as simple as "I've got something you're going to love. I'll tell you tomorrow," can stir up their natural desire to stay engaged. You're not being manipulative. You're being playful. You're inviting them to stay curious about you. And that's important. Because here's what most seniors forget. Your children don't just want to hear from you, they want to be surprised by you. They want to be reminded that you still have your own stories, your own spark, your own adventures. You're not just their parent. You're still a person they can learn from, laugh with, and look up to. When you send a message that says, "period," I came across something that instantly made me think of you. Wait till you see it. You're doing more than dropping a hint. You're pulling them in. You're inviting them into a moment of anticipation. And anticipation creates connection. The truth is, most people are drowning in predictability. Their texts, their routines, their conversations, all start to feel the same. But you can be the one who cuts through that, who offers something different, something thoughtful, something with just a touch of intrigue. Now let's talk about something that might seem small, but carries tremendous power. The right kind of compliment. I know we were taught to be humble, not to flatter, not to overdo things. But sometimes the right words at the right time can light someone up from the inside out. The key is making it personal, not generic, not overused, not the tired. You look great, or you're so smart, but something that shows you really see them. Instead of saying, period, I'm proud of you, which is fine but often expected. Try this. The way you stayed calm through everything last year. That kind of strength doesn't go unnoticed. Or, I've always admired how you speak your truth even when it's hard. That's rare, and I just wanted to say I see it. You see what we're doing here? We're not complimenting for the sake of flattery. We're affirming who they are at their core. And that kind of message, it sticks. It stays. It softens even the coldest silence. Because when you're one of the few people in their life who notices the things that really matter, not just what they do, but who they are, you become unforgettable. You don't need to overthink it. Just keep your eyes open. When you see something good in them, say it. When you notice their effort, acknowledge it. Not with big flowery words, but with sincerity. Your kids may never ask for affirmation out loud, but don't let that fool you. They need it. They crave it, just like we all do. Now, here's something else you can do that truly cuts through the noise. It's not flashy. It's not witty. It's not even long. But it might just be the one kind of message that lingers with them the most. Remind them of a moment you shared together. It could be from childhood, or a few years ago, or even just a phone call you had last month. A text like remember when we used to drive around with no destination and just talk? Or, I still laugh when I think about that time you tried to make banana bread without the bananas. Might seem like a small gesture, but it's not small, it's meaningful. Because nostalgia has a special kind of power. It opens the heart. It reconnects us to who we used to be. And in many cases, it heals things we didn't even realize needed healing. Your child might be an adult now, juggling bills and kids, and stress you never hear about. But when you remind them of a time they felt safe, loved, and free with you, you give them a brief escape from all that pressure. You take them home, even if just for a moment. That's what shared memories do. They anchor us. They remind us we're still part of each other's story. And in a world where everyone feels so fragmented, that's a precious gift. And it doesn't have to be deep. It could be funny. It could be silly. It could be sweet. What matters is that it's yours. A memory only the two of you share. Now let me offer you something else that's often overlooked, but incredibly powerful. And that's knowledge. Yes, knowledge. You might be thinking, what could I share that they don't already know? But hear me out. You've lived through decades of life. You've seen things change, fall apart, come back together. You've learned lessons they haven't even come close to yet. And when you share those lessons, not as advice, but as insights, you're showing them that your mind is still active, still curious, still growing. You might send a message like, Did you know that certain smells can instantly bring back childhood memories? No wonder I thought of you today when I smelled cinnamon. Or, I read something today that made me think. Maybe happiness has more to do with courage than comfort. What do you think? You're not lecturing, you're inviting. You're starting a conversation that goes beyond errands and weather and schedules. And that's how your texts become more than reminders or check-ins. They become sparks. Sparks that ignite curiosity, that plant seeds of deeper connection, that turn the next reply into something you both look forward to, not something that feels like a chore. Here's the thing. Texting might seem like a small, even superficial part of your relationship. But in this fast-moving digital world, it's often the main way your child experiences your presence. So why not make it meaningful? Why not use that little screen to build something bigger? Something warmer, more authentic, and more lasting? You don't need to send daily updates. You don't need to master emojis or keep up with every trend. All you need is this: heart, honesty, and a willingness to keep showing up with love. Because when you speak with love, but also with confidence, empathy, and presence, your words matter, and they echo. Even when there's silence, they echo. And sometimes, just one thoughtful text can reopen a door that felt shut for years. By now, you've seen that the key to reconnecting with your kids isn't about chasing them. It's about showing up in a way that reflects your wisdom, your warmth, and your value. And most of all, it's about being intentional with your presence, even through something as small as a text message. Let's keep going with another kind of message your kids won't be able to ignore. And this one speaks to something we all feel at one point or another: fear of missing out. Now, you might think that's just a term for teenagers and social media, but the truth is, FOMO, the fear of missing out, is a deeply human instinct. It doesn't matter how old you are. When someone you care about is doing something meaningful or exciting, and they leave you just enough of a hint, part of you wants to be part of it. So imagine this. Instead of asking your child, "Want to talk sometime this week?" which can sound like a burden, you say, "I've got something special lined up for Friday, and trust me, you're going to want in." You've just shifted the dynamic. You're not waiting around. You're living, planning, doing something that matters. And they can choose to step into that moment with you. It could be something simple: a recipe you're trying, a memory you're turning into a photo book, a story you've finally written down. The event itself doesn't have to be big. What matters is the energy behind it. The sense that life is happening and they might just miss something meaningful if they don't check in. That's a powerful way to shift the balance from silence to engagement. And here's the next piece. The message that so many forget, but it carries some of the deepest emotional weight of all. It's the message of appreciation. Yes, appreciation. We spend so much of our lives trying to raise our kids, guide them, protect them, correct them, that we forget as they get older that they also need to feel valued by us. You see, as your child grows into adulthood, they carry their own doubts, their own insecurities, their own questions like, am I doing enough? Or am I being a good son, a good daughter? And even if they never say it out loud, a simple message from you that says, I just want you to know, I really appreciate the way you care about your family. It means more than you know. Can melt away 1,000 silent worries. Or you've become someone I admire, not just because you're my child, but because of the way you live. These aren't messages that demand anything. They don't expect a response, but they almost always get one. Why? Because we live in a world where most people go months, even years, without ever hearing genuine appreciation. So when it comes, especially from a parent, it strikes deep. It creates an emotional anchor that holds strong when everything else feels uncertain. You're not just reminding them of your love. You're recognizing who they are. And that recognition is a kind of emotional oxygen most of us don't even realize we're starving for. Here's the thing. People remember how you made them feel. Not just once, but again and again. And the older we get, the more we begin to understand that life isn't built on grand moments. It's built on the small ones, the quiet ones, the unexpected texts that hit just right on a hard day. And those are the kinds of messages you're learning to send. You've learned how curiosity can pull them in. You've learned how deep questions create connection. You've learned that self-confidence, without needing anything in return, can be magnetic. You've seen how empathy softens walls, and how anticipation keeps you relevant, even exciting. You now understand that the right compliment doesn't flatter, it affirms. That memories remind them of who they are, and who you've always been to them. That shared knowledge builds respect, and that little hints of FOMO stir interest. And finally, you've felt the quiet strength in saying, I see you. I value you. I appreciate who you are today, not just who you were as my little boy or girl. These are more than just texts. These are acts of connection. They are invitations. They are reminders. They are bridges. And don't worry if your child doesn't reply immediately. You're planting seeds. And seeds grow in silence, long before you see the sprout. What matters is the intention you put into the soil. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're unsure how to respond. Maybe life has pulled them away farther than either of you wanted. But your message, your calm, thoughtful, loving message, can be the thread that gently pulls them back over time. And here's what I want you to remember more than anything. Just because they don't answer right away doesn't mean they didn't feel it. It doesn't mean it didn't land. It doesn't mean it didn't matter. Sometimes, the message that gets no reply is the one they reread when they need comfort, when they miss you, when they feel alone. And that's what makes your words so powerful. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and the next time you pick up your phone, don't send a message out of fear. Don't send it out of guilt. Don't send it to get something. Send it because you love. Send it because you see. Send it because you matter. And when you write with that energy, your kids will feel it. Whether they reply in 10 minutes or 10 days, you'll know. The connection is still alive. And so are you. You're still here. Still learning. Still reaching. Still full of wisdom and warmth and heart. So here's to you. Here's to the text that opens a door. Here's to the message that becomes a memory. Here's to staying connected, not just with your children, but with your own courage, your dignity, your voice. You are never too old to grow closer, never too late to speak from the heart. If this video spoke to you today, share your experience in the comments. What message has worked for you? Or what will you try sending next? And if you want more conversations like this, filled with real talk, practical wisdom, and a whole lot of encouragement, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. You deserve to feel seen, supported, and inspired. Until next time, keep reaching out, keep showing up, and above all, keep being the kind of parent whose love echoes far beyond the silence. You've got this. And we're here with you every step of the way.